Hello, everybody. Welcome to this virtual webinar presented by Bosch. My name is Maarten Wings. I will give you a short introduction to our IP-based PA system called Presensa. I'd like to tell you something today about a topic, Presensa. So Presensa is the family name for IP-based public address and voice alarm system from Bosch. And first, I would like to start that as Bosch, we are a known player in public address and voice alarm as well. So with our predecessor of Presensa, we actually had a product called Presidio, which is considered the industry leader in EMEA. So we have more than 20,000 installations installed worldwide. And we took a lot of experience and feedback of this very successful product and introduce that into our next family or next generation of PA products to make it even better. So looking at the insights that we got from Presidio, we took a lot of that as an input to Presensa. So what is Presensa? It's the new family of public address and voice alarm, and it is a system which especially addresses topic like optimized UX. So we got a lot of feedback that actually operating a PA system is not always so easy. So we took a user-centered approach to make that better with Presensa. We are also addressing the IP topic, so a trend on the market to have a more flexible deployment of the PA system leveraging existing IP networks. Decentralization, so to reduce costs. We also allow a system now not to only be positioned from a central distributed system, but we can basically distribute the system all over the premises, and with that reduce cabling quite a lot. Also a topic, maximize energy efficiency, looking at a green product policy from a Bosch perspective, but also from an end user perspective to lower the costs of ownership of this equipment. And also looking at more efficient use of equipment. So really utilize the power as much as you can and also reduce the rack space as much as you can. So you have less equipment to maintain, and also you basically spare rack space for other equipment as well. So next to that, of course, system availability, EN54 compliance, those are all things that are required as well. Now, diving into the topic, out of these ambitions, Presensa was created. It was launched early end 2019. I think it was December even. So let's say early 2020. And it's a fully IP-based, feature-rich, state-of-the-art system, as we call it. So cost-effective, high audio quality, and fully IP connectivity. So if you look at segments that we are serving with Presensa, so that really ranges from hotels, shopping malls, exhibition halls, education facilities, but also larger facilities like airports, offices, buildings which are used for many applications, tunnels, metros, railways. So really where the Presidio portfolio was sitting, also the Presensa portfolio will be. So what has happened since we launched Presensa? So let's say early 2020, we have already sold 400 installations. So we see the really good acceptance by the market. People are migrating from Presidio to Presensa more and more. Also, where we have a really good position with Bosch PA is at the airports. So we see that a really large airports, so top 10 players in the EMEA space, are converting already to Presensa, and the first large installations are being deployed, but also complex projects like railway projects, cruise ships customers, those are also already starting with Presensa, even if the product is only 1.5 years on the market. And we also see that first hospitals, universities, shopping malls, as also many hotels, sports facilities, etc., are all equipping Presensa already today. So what is it from a sales value proposition? So it is something which is fully IP connected, and it is using secure IP, so audio really on secure IP, so that make sure that there will be no audio messages replayed or whatever for misuse. I think we're the only manufacturer on the market which is doing that already today. An emphasis on effective power utilization, so no more power overspill, but really look at the equipment that is installed, utilize it as much as possible. Highest system availability, so make sure that the system is always running with various concepts to avoid any single point of failure. We had quite some emphasis on the user experience, so we really also interviewed users to see how our systems are currently used, what could we improve with Presensa, and we also tested our design concepts on them. And fully featured as a standard, which basically means if you want to install a Presensa system, also in an EN54 certified environment, everything you need is on board. So the switches are already there, the power ports are already there, everything which you need to build a full certified Presensa PA voice alarm system all comes with the family range, which makes certification much easier. So I want to run you now through a Presensa system through an application example. So let's imagine this is this large building facility for multiple purposes. So there is the office space in there, there is the retail space in there, you maybe have a restaurant, there is maybe also a spa or a sports facility. So many applications that are combined within one system, and it's probably also distributed because you have a large space to cover, and you want to decentralize the system to keep the cable costs low. So how would this now look like with a Presensa system? So we start with the main components that the Presensa system comprises. So what you see here would be one of those, let's call them distributed subsystems, somewhere out there in the building, installed in one of the IT rooms. So what we see here from the top to the bottom is that first you have the system controller that is basically routing the audio from a wall-mounted or a desktop positioned call station, and is routing the audio through either the 4-channel amplifier or the 8-channel amplifier. The unit which you see in the bottom is the multi-function power supply, which is basically powering all of these units and is also using a battery backup to ensure that the system remains working in case of a power failure. So these are the core components to build one Presensa system, of which you can have multiple if you deploy the system throughout the building. So here you see them in a little bit more detailed on how they are connected. And here we come to the first topic of redundancy and making sure that the system always works. So you see first from the power concept, there is always a mains power, but there is also just a 12-volt battery backup. You see, for instance, the IP communication between the units is redundant. So we have a dual IP port between the system components and also towards the call stations to ensure they're always working and always have communication. Same goes for the power connection. So also there we are using a redundant connection between all the amplifiers, system controller, multifunction power supply. All these connections are being done redundant through the sockets which are on the back of the units. Now, starting with the channel amplifier, coming down to not having a single point of failure. So if you look at the channel amplifier, it is actually has multiple redundancy concepts built in. If you have such a large building, you of course always want the system to work. So one thing is, if the power circuit fails, there is always a secondary power circuit which takes over. If there is a disruption in the loudspeaker line, we actually have redundant concepts to overcome that. So we can build a loop in the wiring. So then if there is a disconnection, you don't lose all the amplifier, all the speakers, or we have two redundant cables which are running next to each other, making sure that we always deliver the message. Then if the IP connection is disrupted on one of the ports, we actually make sure that the IP connection is as a loop in the building. So the cable is running in a loop, and we can always bring the IP communication through the second side of the loop. So also there, if somebody drills through an IP cable or something like this, from the other side, we can still reach the amplifier. Then there is, and this is a very interesting thing, we actually have an integrated spare amplifier inside the amplifier itself. So this means if one of the amplifiers would fail, you don't need to install a spare unit in the rack. It is actually an integrated spare amplifier which automatically takes over to ensure that this amplifier channel, which is not working anymore, still is delivering the messages through this integrated spare amplifier. And then there is also something which is called a lifeline. So let's say the digital processing unit of the amplifier malfunctions. So we don't have any digital audio anymore. Even then, through an analog connection from the multi-purpose power supply, we are actually delivering analog audio for voice alarm. So even if the digital processing, the digital audio is not coming anymore, even then we have a backup, and we do this through the multi-purpose power supply. And then the sixth basically measure to ensure we never have a single point of failure, we can also have a redundancy on the controller. So two controllers in the system, if one of the controller breaks down, then the messages can be routed by the second controller, which we call the standby controller, and the system continues to function. So with that, we ensure 24/7 availability of the system and ensure that we always have an evacuation in case that is needed. So centralized and decentralized. So on the left side, we see the central situation where we just have one rack with all the equipment in, looking at also single point of failure point of view. So we can also now distribute the hardware over multiple locations to ensure we are not so vulnerable, even if it is multiple buildings. We can also put the equipment in multiple buildings, so we even have a geographic separation. But it's not only that, obviously also from cabling standpoint of view, if we have a decentralized system, we are much more flexible now. We can basically connect Presensa equipment on the network wherever we want to. So looking at the rack size, so in Presensa, we are using a concept which is called dynamic power utilization. So this means the amplifier channels are actually measuring how much load is on the speaker line. And based on that load, it is dynamically assigning the required power for that specific channel. So this is something which is completely different as it is done in traditional systems, where you really have fixed power allocation to a channel and you very often have overspill. So let's say I require 100 watts on a certain speaker line, then I need to allocate by default 250 watts because that's given by the system, and I cannot fine tune that to the exact need for that specific channel. So Presensa is doing that in a different way. It is measuring what is the load needed on the line. Then it is allocating exactly that load, and with that we are fully utilizing the full power of the system amplifier, limiting overspill, which is actually leading to a reduction of 50% of used equipment, just because we are much more efficient. And less equipment obviously also means that we are using less power because we have less equipment in the rack. Yeah. So now looking at this distributed system, what does it look like? So we see here this loop, which I just mentioned, that is running. So the various Presensa components connected, the various subsystems with the speaker lines on it. You see that it is running a protocol that is called Omnio. So Omnio is a protocol that is based on Dante, but on top of Dante, it is basically including audio control, and it is also including subscription. So this makes sure that you just have one protocol that is running on the network, which cannot be hacked or which cannot be replayed with audio messages or something like this. You also see the fully featured concept. So the switches to build the IP network are already integrated in the Presensa system. In case you require still an additional switch, we also have some recommended hardware that we sell in the portfolio to complete the audio network. But all in all, you see we have all the components to build a fully IP certified EN54 public address and voice alarm system using all the components that come with the Presensa family portfolio, as including also, for instance, fiber transceivers to deal with longer distances inside the building. So as I mentioned, this was more the technical side of the system. So how do we connect it? What are the components? How are redundancy concepts? How is the use of power? But we also emphasized a lot on user experience. So public address is actually a system which is elevating the customer experience in the building. So remember now the picture of the building that I showed. So you will have a retail, you maybe have a restaurant, you maybe have a library, an office space, you maybe have elevators or a spa and a sports facility. So you want to make the right ambience in the right part of the building. So what we did with that, if you look at a Presensa amplifier, basically every channel is an amplifier on its own. So this means it has its own digital audio processing per channel. So you can really do the equalizing, the delay, you can tune the volume a level of that. And you can assign individual music sources to that. So if you look at the picture, with the amplifier on it, you see the lady playing piano. There is another small picture where somebody is making an announcement. You have some background music. Maybe you have some louder music in the gym. So this is something which we can play through the Presensa amplifiers to ensure that you have the right atmosphere, ambience in the different sections of the venue, yeah, to get more business value out of your public address investment. We make that also much more easily accessible. So we have a mobile client which can connect to the PA system, and that actually allows, for instance, a retailer to take control of the PA zones which are in his premises. So he can play IP radio on that. He can play retail messages if he want to. He can make announcements, maybe if there is a lost child or something like that. We have a text-to-speech converter for that, or you can just make an announcement pre-recorded and then you play it over the system. There is opportunities to do scheduled messages inside the premises. And this is all from a web-based client. So this could be from the PC where the POS system is running, point of sales, or you can just do it from a tablet or even from your smartphone. If you open the web client, you have access to these features. So also there we make the PA system much more accessible to a system user. Also looking at delivering a call. So very often we learn from users that they are a bit afraid to operate the system. So they are scared that they cause an evacuation call, or they never know whether a call was delivered successfully or don't know when to start talking. So we took that feedback to heart, and with operators, we designed a new call station concept where the call station is actually guiding the operator. So if you press the button now on the call station is telling you what to do. It is telling you when the chime is still running. It is telling you when you need to start speaking. It's giving you information if you are too close to the microphone or if you are too far away from the microphone. And it is also giving you a feedback whether your message was actually successfully delivered. So also with that, if you use a system like this, you can ensure as a venue owner that everybody feels comfortable in operating the PA system. So this was a small introduction about the Presensa system with a little bit more in depth on what the components are and how everything is connected and how also the the user interface of the system is. So I would like to repeat one more time the same value proposition. So it is a fully IP-based system, which we can install centralized or decentralized. It is a system which is using power allocation very efficiently, because we allocate power only based on the load that is actually on the loudspeakers. We don't have a single point of failure because we have 6 redundancy features that are built in, which I have shown you. We have a user-centric design on the call station, and we also make access possible to the system through the mobile client concept that we have. And it's a system which is fully features, which means from the portfolio, if you want to build an EN54 certified system, everything which you require for that is either on board of the Presensa units, or we have the components in the portfolio that you need to complete the system. So this was the presentation. I just would like to mention one thing more from my side. So if you are interested in Presensa and learn more details about it, we have also webinars frequently where you can learn more about the technology, where we also explain, how it works more in depth. Real-time audio for IP, for instance, the redundancy concepts behind the Presensa system, the power allocation, all these type of things. So you can also learn how to specify this product. If you are looking for specification text, so on the Bosch webpage, you will also find a data sheet which includes a lot of product details. And in the data sheets, we also included specifier texts. So if you want to specify Presensa and get a little bit more details about this, this is something which I could recommend to you. Okay, if there are no more questions, please feel free to reach out afterwards to your local Bosch contact if you have questions about Presensa, or reach out to us. Let me thank you for your attention, and then I'll close the session now. Thank you very much.